What is going on, guys? It is Adam and Marf, and tonight's show is going to be packed. We're going to talk about what just flew over Earth, what William Shatner may have known or may have told his colleague there on the SpaceX flight. Someone is no longer here on Earth after going to space. We'll talk about that and a ton more in just a minute. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in the show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. Marfoogle News, only news I choose. Marfoogle. All right. What is going on, guys? It is Adam, a.k.a. Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. We have a ton to talk about, so just without further ado, if you are new here, remember you can actually follow along on our website. You can go over to marfooglenews.com, and it's very easy to navigate. It is done by thumbnail. Did he know too much information is tonight's show, and that circled man is the gentleman who actually perished on a plane crash, out of all things. Not one of the most usual ways to go, but again, that is how he just went today. Now, just a few days ago, or about a week ago, he was actually on the flight on SpaceX's, one of the first tourism flights to space. Now, he was on that flight with William Shatner. Recently, we've been talking about William Shatner, of course, because he just went on Today's show and talked about, of course, a catastrophic event to come. That we're expecting this catastrophic event, not a catastrophic possibility, not this. He was talking about it like it was something that he knew about. So very creepy as far as that goes. We'll talk about that later. But then, of course, all of the links, we try to make sure that we include every single source, whether it be a picture, a video, an article, a tweet, a document. It is all going to be sourced on our website. Then, therefore, you have a bibliography and you know exactly where your stories are coming from. Now, at the very bottom, there is a yellow bar. Once you hit that, that is the stuff that is too far to one direction where we can't cover and stay neutral, or it's basically too hot for TV. All of that down there, including all the tweets, the videos down there. Again, beware, at your own risk down there. And then over on the right side is, of course, all of the ways to support us. We are an independent media. Again, we do not have a multi-channel network. We don't even have a multi-billion-dollar company behind us. We have you. So everybody that does support and all the Foogle fam, you guys are what really makes this work. So thank you so much to everybody that has supported and will continue to support us. And honestly, it's going to be a rough next year, I believe. So it's something may have changed. We're going to talk about how YouTube and Google and Gmail all went down at the same time in the middle of the night here. Prime time in Europe. So if you experience that, put it in the chat. Were you actually using those services when they went down? What is weird about that as well, we'll talk about in a second, but for all of those things to go down at once, that's a big deal. And the first time it happened, it was unheard of. Now it's been happening I wouldn't say regularly, but it's happened about every 6 months. We see these huge downage, and they say that this is almost impossible. It's all of the servers going down all at once. So very, very strange. Is it practice? Are they practicing for if it goes down forcefully? We'll talk about that and more. Let's bring in my co-host / internet brother, Dex James. He will also be on the phones tonight at 224400-MARF. That number is going to be scrolling down below. If you do want to call in, I recommend that you call in right away and get Dex. Dex, how are you doing today, and what is going on?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
By the way, over the last 24 hours, just want to let you guys know we had some family stuff that we needed to do yesterday, so I appreciate everybody that was patient with us. And then I'm glad that we're here tonight. It is a call-in show, so remember to call in that number at 224400-MARF. First caller will be in just a few articles. It says an Earth grazer flew over a whopping 186 miles over 2 states, then vanished. That's what NASA says, at least. It says a space object with an intimidating name, the Earth grazer, zoomed over Georgia and Alabama this week, offering witnesses a glimpse of something rare, NASA says. Earth grazers are fireball meteors with a trajectory so shallow that they skim long distances along the upper atmosphere, NASA says. Very rarely, they even bounce off the atmosphere and head back into space, NASA Meteor Watch wrote on Facebook. Now, I want to point out, a lot of people said that when I posted at 10:15 Pacific a few days ago, that they said, oh, that's SpaceX. I wanted to point out that was 3 hours apart from the SpaceX coming back into our atmosphere, and it did not match up. People were looking at the Pacific time when it was Eastern time, or it was basically 3 hours away from that when SpaceX came in. What I personally saw was a blue light that just went across like a huge line, and I did get the glow of it and the whole sky lighting up on my camera. I've been trying to, I want to figure out how I can put that on there without, putting myself on blast. But I have shown several people, including Dex. I mean, Dex, was it not? The whole sky lights up, and then you hear me going, I think there was a couple of expletive, like, what the F was that?
Yeah, that was pretty bright.
Yeah, and so that's the thing. I'm wondering if we're going to see more of these Earth grazers, and I've never heard of this before, and I've been covering this for over 3 years, almost 4 years, and I cover a lot of the supposed meteor sightings. It's as big as the Burj Khalifa, it's as big as the Empire State Building, and I've never seen this. I've never seen an Earth grazer. So if you have heard of these before, you maybe you did in college, or they've talked about it, or you learned about it in school. I've never heard of it, and maybe I'm just ignorant on the subject, but it says that they're very rare and that they bounce off the atmosphere and head back into space occasionally. It says the fireball appeared Tuesday, November 9th around 6:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Officials say that it was detected by 3 NASA meteor cameras in the region. It's kind of crazy that NASA is using cameras. There's not like a radar or some sort of crazy sensor. They're seeing it with their cameras. It says it entered the atmosphere at a very shallow angle, only about 5 degrees from the horizon. It says from the horizon. It says, in fact, it was flying so long that NASA had to recalculate its data to determine how far it traveled across the planet. The meteor was first seen at the altitude of 55 miles above the Georgian town of Taylorsville, moving northwest at 38,000 miles per hour, NASA says. Taylorsville is about 55 miles northwest of downtown Atlanta. Its path was so long that the automated software could not handle all the data. So we ran another analysis code this morning and discovered that the fireball traveled a whopping 186 miles through the air. The revised calculations put the endpoint 35 miles above the town of Lutz in southern Tennessee. Now, Dex, this was over Georgia where you were at. Did you know anybody that spotted this, or did you see this, or was this kind of a quick moment? And again, by the way, just to remind you that we've had all of these things that have come in, and then we talked about this. We talked about as far as these things coming in and not being reported. This one was reported and seen by thousands.
And Adam, I did not see that in Georgia.
So I just wonder, and maybe if you get a chance, talk to some other Georgians or your friends and see if anybody actually saw this or if anybody caught it on their video cameras. If you caught this event on your camera, if you caught it on Ring camera, we have marfooglenews.com/playmyvideo. When you go to our website, you'll see about 3 or 4 tabs over, you'll see Play My Video. When you click on that, it will give you an option to actually upload your Ring videos onto our site there. So then we can actually show the rest of us. If you have this on camera, I would love to see what this actually looked like. They didn't put the video that they had. They did. There was a couple screenshots around, but wasn't on this one. It says scientists believe it was a small fragment of an asteroid burning up. An overcast sky in the region blocked the view for many people and also foiled attempts to estimate the size of the rock. So they don't even know how big this thing is. It actually came in, it bounced off, and it went back out, supposedly. And I'm not saying I believe that's what it is, but 38,000 miles they are saying was so fast that they had to recalculate their software. I always see like 20,000, 22,000, 25,000. I've seen 28,000. I guess I've seen 45,000 miles per hour. But this is incredibly fast, and it's beyond hypersonic. So I wonder if something like this could be explained away as an Earth grazer and end up being something else. It's kind of funny to me that it went over and then left again. Think about that. It actually came down, flew over 186 miles of the United States, and then left. Just saying. Think about that. Richard Turner, thank you so much for your support. Thank you for the super sticker there, and appreciate you, Vibron from Australia. Thank you so much. Everybody that ends up supporting tonight, I appreciate all of you guys. Donnie Newcomer says, man gets shot in a rocket and survives. Man flies in Cessna and dies. I rolled my eyes so hard today, I backflipped. Yeah, gets shot in a rocket and survives, and flies in a Cessna and dies. That could probably be turned into a song. The one and only Charlie Chill, thank you for subscribing. As always, if you subscribe during the show, you will get a shout out. And then Ides of March says nothing. You could have put a comment there. Thank you so much for your support. And then Jane from Tennessee says, God bless. Thank you for being the last one out last time. Same with Denise Leslie. Thank you so much for being the last one out last show. So what do you think about this? Do you think it was a meteor? Do you think it was Chinese technology? Do you think it was something else? Do you think it was our technology or a test of something that we have yet to see? And then we have, of course, the moon's top layer alone has enough oxygen to sustain 8 billion people for 100,000 years. Now, most people's reaction 2 years ago would have said, that sounds really dumb. So first of all, you have to go back to the discovery about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. In fact, it was kind of when Dex was starting out with me. And they said that the moon was technically inside the Earth's atmosphere. Now, no matter what you believe, whether we're on a piece of paper or we're on a basketball here, either way, they're telling us this, and they're basically contradicting what we've all grown up and learned. When that discovery came out, there was a lot of videos and a lot of actual reactions to that, and they said, this is a bunch of BS. How can they tell us now that the moon is technically in our atmosphere? A lot of people didn't actually get the full explanation of it, and they said, whoa, it's in our atmosphere. Well, they say that it's inside a part of our atmosphere. So there's technically oxygen molecules out at the moon. In fact, the moon, it was something like 225,000 miles away or something like that. And the atmosphere goes something like 400,000. So it's not even halfway to where our atmosphere technically ends. And there's, of course, different parts of the atmosphere, supposedly, right? So I thought that this was really, really funky. It says that alongside advances in space exploration, we've recently seen much time and money invested in technologies that could allow effective space resource utilization. And at the forefront of these efforts has been a laser-sharp focus on finding the best way to produce oxygen on the moon. So this is another thing that, I've never heard of people talking about as far as finding oxygen on the moon, but apparently they have laser sharp focus on it. Why are they doing this? Do they know something that we don't? That's what I really wonder about this as far as what is actually happening with this. It says in October, the Australian Space Agency and NASA signed a deal to send an Australian-made rover to the moon under the Artemis program with a goal to collect lunar rocks that could ultimately provide breathable oxygen on the moon. Although the moon does have an atmosphere, it's very thin and composed mostly of hydrogen, neon, and of course argon. It's not the sort of gaseous mixture that could sustain oxygen-dependent mammals such as humans. That said, there is actually plenty of oxygen on the moon. It just isn't in a gaseous form. Instead, it's trapped inside of regolith, a layer of rock and fine dust that covers the moon's surface. If we could extract this oxygen from regolith, would it be enough to support human life on the moon? It says the breadth of oxygen can be found in many of the minerals in the ground around us, and the moon is mostly made from the same rocks you'll find here on Earth. Of course, they say that the moon was part of the Earth at one point after they smashed into each other or something, and then they broke apart. It says, although with a slightly greater amount of material that came from meteors. Minerals such as silica, aluminum, and iron and magnesium oxides dominate the moon's landscape. All of these minerals contain oxygen, but not in a form our lungs can access. On the moon, these minerals exist in a few different forms, including hard rock, dust, gravel, and stones covering the surface. This material has resulted from the impacts of meteorites crashing into the lunar surface over countless millennia. Some people call the moon's surface layer lunar soil, but as a soil scientist, I'm hesitant to use this term. Soil, as we know it, is pretty magical stuff that only occurs on Earth. This is another thing that I've never, you don't think about this kind of stuff. It says it has been created in a vast array of organisms working on the soil's parent material. Regolith derived from hard rock over millions of years. The result is a matrix of minerals that were not present in the original rocks. Earth's soil is imbued and remarkable physical, chemical, and biological characteristics. Meanwhile, the materials on the moon's surface is basically regolith in its original untouched form. So to sum this up, it basically says that you might be familiar with this if you know about electrolysis on Earth. This process can be commonly used in manufacturing, such as to produce aluminum. An electrical current is passed through a liquid form of aluminum oxide, commonly called alumina, via electrodes to separate the aluminum from the oxygen. In this case, they said the oxygen is produced as a byproduct. On the moon, the oxygen would be the main product, and aluminum or other metal extracted would be a potentially useful byproduct. So they're talking about going to the moon, extracting, this is what they say, right? Extracting oxygen. And, why are they doing this again? Are they doing this because at some point they predict that we're running out of oxygen here on Earth? Are they going to mine it from the moon? By the way, we've talked about these crazy ideas that supposedly are not as crazy anymore, where they're actually talking about tethering to the moon, having a space elevator to the moon. And it would be done with like some sort of crazy cable, and it would lift something up into the sky and through it. I know it sounds absolutely nuts, but this is what actual scientists are saying that they're working on. Tether to the moon and possibly try to make it so it doesn't go any further because it's affecting the wobble and all this other stuff. So they say that they would eventually go up there. What some are predicting is that they would go up there, mine this oxygen, and possibly bring it back down because we wouldn't have good, fresh oxygen down here on Earth, that somehow something is failing and it's all about to go to crap. Or at least maybe that's what we'll be told. I don't know. But I do think it's really, really crazy that they're talking about this right now. My prediction is that very soon we will see companies come together, and there'll be companies or they'll ride with SpaceX, or they'll be a part of SpaceX, and they'll go up there and they'll mine oxygen. Not only that, they'll mine aluminum. So they'll take that aluminum byproduct and then bring it back down, or potentially use that to build stuff on the supposed moon. So what a trip. And then what do you think of this? Do you think that this is do you think that this is going to be a bigger thing in the future? Let me know. If you want to call in on this or any of the stories tonight, give us a call at 224-400-MARF. And then we have the tech mogul who flew to space with William Shatner last month, among 2 perished in a New Jersey plane crash. Now, this is the gentleman, of course, he was a billionaire, I believe. And again, this is somebody who was extremely rich. It says the Blue Origin crew member who recently joined William Shatner on his journey to space is one of 2 people who died after a plane crashed in New Jersey on Thursday, according to authorities. In a statement to People, the New Jersey State Police and NJSP confirmed that the fatal incident unfolded just before 3 p.m. in Hampton Township in Sussex County. It said state police said that their troopers responded at 2:50 p.m. after receiving a report of a small aircraft crash and discovered 2 fatalities at the scene. According to an online incident report from the Federal Aviation Administration, or the FAA, the 2 victims, a pilot and a passenger, were the only people on board at the time. It says they were later identified as Glenn M. DeVries, 49 years old, of New York, New York, and Thomas P. Fisher, 54, of Hopatcong, New Jersey, NJSP confirmed. The FAA has not identified who the pilot of the aircraft was, according to the Fisher Aviation website. DeVries began his private pilot training with Fisher in February of 2016. So I'm a bit confused. They said that they haven't identified the pilot. It says among 2 perished. So was there 3 or 2 people? It says.
Well, they haven't identified which one was flying.
Oh, okay. I was thinking they haven't identified the pilot. He's training with a pilot, so they don't know if DeVries was actually doing. What a perfect cover, though, if something, was fishy to happen. And again, some of these end up turning out to be homicide in investigations, because they've had this same scenario before where somebody was a training pilot. I'm sure that if you go back through and if they had declassified some of the stuff that's happened, as far as the CIA, this would be a perfect way to take somebody out. Especially if they, quite possibly might have talked to somebody, or maybe William Shatner got loose lips, got excited, was on the flight up to space and ended up telling stuff. Or maybe there was a scary moment that we don't know about that they won't publicly talk about because, SpaceX doesn't want people to know that maybe there was a close failure or something may have happened. Or the Blue Origin. Maybe William Shatner knew something and told it to him. And then maybe said, hey, I might have blurted this out about the event to this gentleman. I don't know. I feel like there's something odd about this. Like Donnie Newcomer commented a minute ago, it says, the man gets shot in a rocket and goes to space and survives, and he flies in a Cessna and dies. So I don't know. What do you guys think about this? I'm going to go over to the chat and see what you guys are thinking here. It says, Fishy did the same thing to J.F. Jr. David F., the same thing I was thinking about. And then somebody, Bill Bradley, mentions the Titanic was a hot job too. LCJC family, what's going on? It says, Shatner told us enough. I don't know if you were there for that show, but we were talking about how he said these comments. Now, Dex, is it possible? Yeah, I'll try to find his comments on that. But I believe you can also search our website, Marfoogle News.
He said catastrophic event.
Yes, but I wonder what was his exact quote. Like, do you remember it? It definitely. We should have pulled that up in this one. Let me see here.
I'll grab it.
Okay, thank you. And because it does make it was really weird. Prince William and William Shatner both say something. Both Williams, right? Both Williams said something within 2 days. One day and then the next day. William Shatner told this Today person, says, basically talking about a future catastrophic event like it is going to happen. And then Prince William ended up saying, he was giving them crap at SpaceX and Elon and all these billionaires. And he's basically saying, why don't they fix it here instead of trying to find somewhere else to live? Basically saying that is what they're doing. They're trying to find somewhere else for humans to go because they believe our planet is going to end. If you know anything about what Elon thinks and what, now he is on the inside and he's still trying to do this. Elon believes that the world is ending. And after he's on the inside of this and on government panels and on committees, he still believes it. Now they're going even faster. They're trying to go as fast as they can to supposedly get people off of Earth.
It's in screener.
I mean, this is really strange stuff. I mean, the fact is, reality is stranger than fiction now. So here's let's pull this up. Let's see. Okay, so it says, William Shatner struck by fragility of this planet during flight to the edge of space. And it says, Shatner says in this interview, it says, William Shatner said Thursday that breaking through the Earth's thin atmosphere reinforced his conviction that people need to take better care of the planet. He said, it's so fragile. Shatner, who co-played Captain T. Kirk in the original series of Star Trek, said on NBC today. It says, there's this little tiny blue skin that is 50 miles wide, he said, and we pollute it. And it's our means of living, and I was struck by it, so profoundly by it. He said, the fragility of this planet, the coming catastrophic event, and we all need to clean this act up now.
Now, they're taking a lot of this and piecing it together in an order in which they want you to hear it. But that particular statement that you just read is the one statement he said right when asked, what a great thing it was, etc. But yeah, that is the quote right there, coming catastrophic event.
And he says, the fragility of this planet, the coming catastrophic event, and we all need to clean this act up now. And this is right when that same thing, it was like they were all in on a meeting, and like Prince William and other people were in on some meeting that the rest of us didn't get to go to. So I think it's very strange that the person he sat directly next to ends up perishing in this very rare kind of plane accident. I mean, yes, there's more Cessna accidents than, say, big airliners, but that's kind of weird. He sat right next to Shatner, and, after hearing this from Shatner, that kind of put him in this weird light, like, does he know something? Why was he even picked? Of course, he's William Shatner. He was Star Trek. He does have a place in all of the people that grew up that are running this, this country and this world or whatever. I'm sure that they actually have, idols from their childhood, and they might take them under their wing. Think about this. The most evil elites, all these, whoever's really in charge, they probably did watch Star Trek, Like, this is something. Or
they created it.
Or they created it. That's a good question. Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe they created it to show what was to come or something. I don't know, but a lot of things in Star Trek, if you actually look, are coming true. They're talking about printing food, just like in Star Trek, where they, I guess oh my gosh, and I've watched all of the shows, every last one of them, every series, where it creates food out of nowhere. I know the chat's gonna tear me apart here. What is that called? Where they make stuff out of nothing. They make food. What is that machine called? Replicator. Thank you. So we're talking about, that's a real thing, that they're going to 3D print chicken, and at the same time a laser cooks it, and they're getting faster and faster. And this is something that, is in the beginning stages, but we're talking about, say you want chicken nuggets, it would print out chicken nuggets and cook them at the exact same time. It would literally replicate a chicken nugget, and then you take it off of the thing and eat it, and it's fully cooked. You're talking about creating, and it uses and right now I'm assuming it uses like a chicken paste, but then when it's cooked, it's actual, food. And who knows, maybe in Star Trek, when they replicate a steak, it's actually fake. But that's what they're talking about. That's what Gates is talking about. That's what they're talking about, having these fake meats and fake things and genetically altered things that basically replicate everything that we have. This is, what's so scary is that almost all of us have this, deep down, this feeling that there is something so big right now happening, and we can't put our thumb on exactly what it is. We know that there's massive events happening all at the same time. It's like, we know something bad is coming. We all know it. And, you try to talk to friends and family about it and they think you're crazy. They think you're nuts. I don't think you're nuts. I think that we're all trying to piece this together, and we're honestly trying to do this together. And we all may have different thoughts. We might have different beliefs, but we are all here for the same purpose. We're all asking these questions. Almost all of us started somewhere. I literally started this out of my car, and I was just confused on why a lot of the things that were happening. Why, if they know that, hundreds of thousands of people are going to perish on the West Coast, why aren't they preparing for it? Why aren't they signing every check that they need to prepare us for this massive event, the Cascadia Subduction Zone? Why aren't they preparing anybody? Why aren't they even telling majority of people don't even know what it is? Why aren't they telling us about, and now they're telling us that the world is almost at the point of no return. It's like this, if that is the truth, that wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for the greedy companies and all this other stuff that, never told us until it was too late. They want to turn a blind eye until they can't. And I bet you that a lot of this other stuff that's happening is cover-ups of cover-ups and cover-ups of cover-ups. What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below, or give me a call at 224-400 Marf. What do you think about this tech mogul that perished? What do you think about William Shatner's comments? Again, the fragility of this planet, and then doesn't even blink, says the coming catastrophic event, and we all need to clean this act up now, he added. That's creepy. And then talking about the sun's increasing activity may heighten risk for cannibal solar storms. The more and more we have warned a lot of people, everybody needs to pay attention to this, because it's only going to get crazier. And the more information that I find out, the more that I 100% do not feel any qualms with telling people to prepare for solar events. If you've ever seen Ice Age Farmer or any other person who's really, really devoted to these things, you would understand that a lot of people are looking at the sun right now for the next possible catastrophic event. And some say that it is actually the reason why a lot of people are doing the things that they're doing right now. I don't know if that's true, but I do know that a lot of these things are going to really happen, and the reactions for whatever is happening is going to affect us all. By the way, Lead Dispenser, thank you for stopping by and saying, but the world is tough. Yes, it is. And then Release the Quack and Sammy Lee. Thank you, Sammy Lee. Thank you. Divine 1122. It's an amazing time to be alive. That's a great saying there. Lead Dispenser, LOL, just saying. And then thank you for everyone being 100% awesome. Lead Dispenser, thank you for being here. I appreciate you guys that stop by almost every night. It says the sun has awoken after coming out of the solar minimum in December of 2019, thus beginning solar cycle 25. Our star has been quite active over the last several months, releasing powerful flares. Not even 2 weeks ago, a major flare. A coronal mass ejection was sent towards Earth, creating days of geomagnetic storms. The road to the solar maximum of 2025 could be full of powerful events. In an interview with Space.com, Bill Murtagh, a program coordinator for the Space Weather Prediction Center, or SWPC, of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, discussed the danger of multiple coronal mass ejections being released one after another. Isn't that funny? So now they're saying, now they're talking about it, and this is only going to be a slight whisper in people's ears until it gets worse and worse and worse. Remember, they think that the big ones are happening in 2024 and 2025. which slightly adds up with Deagle's predictions. And remember, this is something that if you realize what they've kind of found, they could have found this 10 years ago. They could have found this 20 years ago. This cycle goes back 400 years, and they could have predicted if they truly did find out how to predict the horrible events that would knock out grids and things, it might explain why, previous administration said, hey, we need to harden the grid right now. I'm signing an executive order to harden our grid. It might, explain a little bit of this. And that would also line up with what I was told by someone who is in a higher up position, that they are now going by the 22-year cycle. That 22-year cycle instead of the 11-year cycle goes back that same distance, but it shows that this is going to be an extremely, not only unpredictable, but very well could be less storms, but they're more powerful and could contain something like a Carrington event. Now, Carrington level events, the big ones, the highest classes of the storms happen every 150 years on average. Our last one was 160 years ago. So this is something that we're paying close attention to. It says, in this scenario, even if the CMEs are not incredibly powerful, a series of them would be more difficult to predict and to prepare for. These waves of plasma cross the 150 million kilometers between the sun and the Earth before slamming into our planet's magnetic field and our atmosphere. They can damage satellites and electronic devices, as well as mess with radio communications. It says, quote, that first CME essentially works its way through the 93 million miles and is almost clearing a path out for other CMEs to come in behind it. Murtaugh told Space.com that sometimes we use the term cannibalizing the one ahead. So it's essentially clearing away. It says a cannibal CME of a certain power could damage critical infrastructures, and getting people ready for it might not be possible. Space weather prediction is notoriously complicated, and knowing how Earth's magnetic field will behave against the uncertain magnetic distribution of a CME requires observations that are not always readily available. It says we have determined for all practical purposes that our worst case scenario for the extreme geomagnetic storm event scenario will indeed be this. I'm going to repeat that one more time because I think this part should be clipped and taken. It says, we have determined for all practical purposes that our worst case scenario for the extreme geomagnetic storm event scenario will indeed be this. A cannibal CME, one after another after another. It's just that CMEs were not that big, but the process happened here where we had back-to-back 2-3 different CMEs came sweeping in together. The strongest geomagnetic storm on record is the Carrington event. And if that were to happen today, the damages and danger would be severe. Back in 2009, NASA estimated that the unfolding of such a severe geomagnetic storm would lead up to 130 million people in the U.S. left without power and without water distribution affected within several hours. Perishable foods and medications lost in 12 to 24 hours. Loss of heating, air conditioning, sewage disposal, phone service, fuel resupply, and so on. You wouldn't be able to get to where you're going. You wouldn't get the food wherever you are going. It says there have been calls for governments and companies to update current systems and to make them more resilient against geomagnetic storms. Insurance markets, Lloyd estimates that the damage from the Carrington level event would be between 0.6 and 2.6 trillion US dollars. And that's not including the cost of all the lives. This is something that is now going to come out more and more and more, and people are going to discover this. Again, this is what the military already knows about. They already know that this, among other things, are all going to line up. It seems to me like if you do believe in anything biblical, it kind of seems like we have so many things lining up that are so, of such epic proportions that it's really, it's like playing a lotto and 1 and 2 is a winner. Because no matter what, we're going to hit something bad. And that's not to scare people, and that's not to make people afraid. It's just to let you know that no matter what, you should be preparing for this stuff. Sonic Fox, CMEs might be the process of how the veil lifts. That's a good, that's a thought. And then that Gen X dude says, we too can sense a lot. Open eyes, open mind, prep now, worry later. One love all to Foogle fam. And then Tassie Devil from Australia, thank you. And then Mass Bill Infoman says, thanks for all the great work, guys. Hey, thank you for your support, and thank you for everybody that drops by. Over on D-Live, we've got a whole D-Live, D-Love crew over there. Rabbit111, Jaybird. What do you guys think about this? Put it in the chat. Lead Dispenser says, I hope the moon monster kills them all. Okay. That's, you're not supposed to know about the moon monster yet. That's on the far side. Scooby-Doo-Doo, right? Carolina Roots. And then Lead Dispenser again. Thank you. Divine1122, thank you for dropping in. And Ninja Genie, thank you for supporting us like that. I can't say thank you enough. And then cheers to @Bold and our fam. Love y'all, Carolina Roots. I'm here only because you bring everyone together. Lead Dispenser, that's why we actually have the 15 minutes before the show, so to make sure that everybody starts talking and getting to know each other. I'm glad that we started putting that in there. People understand why we do that. So yeah, we've been talking about this. I hope that people actually take action on this. You can actually protect yourself. This is a real thing. People need to start looking into actually protecting yourself against these items. These things that are happening, a lot of the things that are on Earth right now, we have the obvious documents and proof from the governments that they know that this is something that's going to happen. They are actively preparing for the most probable situation. They believe even if it's not natural, they are looking at an actual physical EMP hitting from another country. You can block against these things. You should definitely go over and do your own research for dang sure, but then go to marfooglenews.com/EMP. You can actually protect yourself against not only EMPs of all three phases, E1, E2, and E3, say one that would come from NK or China, but you can also protect yourself against the natural kind, the one that we were just talking about. Up to 228,000 amps, a Carrington level event would be covered under that. marfooglenews.com/EMP. They make different devices for different things. You can get one for your car, wire it in less than 10 minutes, and that way you won't be stuck somewhere when something like this might happen. And then again, they make one for everything, for your radio, your RV, your car, your motorcycle. You can do this and get a $50 discount through us. We are partnered with Emp Shield, and that's again something that we did, making sure that we were absolutely, when we first found them, we were absolutely blown away that we found something that would actually work. And we know that this because this is the same company that is not only doing contracts for DHS, DOD, but now, of course, the DEMSO team on the Texas grid. So this, I look at how they are protecting themselves, and then that's, of course, what I think we should be following suit. But they're not telling us to do that. DHS did tell us to all prepare for this, and they said, hey, everybody needs 6 months to a year of food and water. But that doesn't cover, they're not telling us every day. They told us 3 years ago about that. Why, if they put out such a grave warning, why has that not been every single year? Why has that not been on billboards? Why is that not part of a public service announcement every month? That's what I don't get. Dex, and again, we've got our callers, 2244000 if you do want to get in. Definitely need to call in. Zara is our first time caller. We're going to have her come in. And then Dex, yeah, I don't understand, why people aren't understanding this by now that we're not crazy. Everybody in this audience already knows. You've got friends and family that are saying that, this is all wacky, but it's not.
And hey, Adam, I'm back from the phones. Did you have a question for me?
No, we're ready for Zara. And then,
yeah.
Again, if you want to call in, there's one line on the back end open. That is 224400 Marf. That's again 224400 Marf.
And Adam, we have Zara live on the line.
All right, Zara, you are live on Marfoogle News. What is going on?
Hey, Marf, and hi, Sam of Foogle. I I just want to tell I'm a first-time caller, and any other first-time callers, you go ahead. Don't be scared to call in because Dex runs you through it really nice. He's a wonderful, sweet guy, and so don't be scared to call in. If you have something to say, don't let that hold you back because he'll walk you through it because I've never done this before, and I had something to say, and I've tried to call in a couple times before, and I wasn't going to give up because I really thought this was important. So he said that he put the links out there for what I had to say and wanted to share. So the first point, Marv, was to say good evening, and you're doing a great job. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And was I pronouncing your name right? Is it Zara? Or
yes.
Beautiful name.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. So I like watching things that are educational and that I think that perhaps, you know, you have to seek out and find for yourself. And sometimes serendipity and things come in, and the more you watch, the more you get like, oh, you know, oh, I'm interested in this, and oh, I'll look at that. Well, I was watching something about a month ago on another podcast, and they suggested a documentary called The Social Dilemma. And it's an award-winning documentary. I love documentaries. I like when somebody puts a full package together and really gives you facts, not opinions. And, you know, I watched it, and I watched it again after I watched it the first time. And then first thing I did was text the link to my daughter and said, you got to watch this. And I said, tell everybody about it. And I wanted to share. Yes, I see it. It's on the screen now. So August 28th, 2020. It's on Netflix. Oh, please. I'm not judge or jury and I don't want to tell anyone what to think. I would just like for people to watch it because it reminded me of something that, you know, you guys had talked about previously about, you know, the AI to come. And this is what's here. Now, what we don't know, and this has been out for a year. So this is old new news. And there are things out there that even when we search for them, we don't always find them. And somehow, some way, I did hear about it, and I have been passing it along, and I would not give up until I could put it forth on your medium and let you and the fam just, you know, make up your own minds on it. I'm not judge nor jury about any of this stuff.
Now,
let
Zara,
everyone be on their own journey.
Can I ask you a couple questions about this? So I haven't seen this yet, but I did hear from other people to watch it. Now, when you mentioned AI, one thing that I've thought recently, and I don't know if it talks about this in the documentary, but, you know, even people at Facebook said just not too long ago, they said, we have lost control of the monster that we've made, or that we've lost control of the actual, the thing that they made. They made Facebook. It's got so many algorithms and so many things inside of it. They said that they feel like they're losing control of it because it is so, it's running itself and it's changing and it's altering itself. And it makes me almost think that they built this thing and it's almost like a Terminator situation where AI is actually taking over this. And then, of course, you know, we keep hearing this stuff about this is going to change. They're trying to create the metaverse. They are now looking into virtual influencers. So we're talking about actual fake people that are doing the things that people are doing on TikTok right now, but it won't even be a real person. It will be an AI. And we watch because we're fascinated that it's AI, right?
And that is what the documentary is actually talking about. But there is kind of a double bluff about it. Of if they say they lose control, then they don't think that people will hold them responsible. I still think it's a very precarious humanistic dilemma of I mean, it's a fine balance of, but it's, if people would please watch that documentary, they would get a better idea of what I call the double bluff. Because if you blame AI and not the creators of the AI who are creating the AI, who are creating itself, I mean, it's the chicken and egg thing, basically. Please watch it.
No, I will.
That's what I basically have to say about that.
You know, another reason why I want to watch it is I actually thought this guy was funny at first, and then the more I watched and the more I realized that he was doing things, and it almost seemed like he was doing exactly what they wanted him to do. So I know that this documentary must be doing some damage because ZDoggMD, now you might like him, you might hate him. I'm not going to say anything negative about him. But I do believe that he has done videos, especially regarding the thing that's been going on the last 2 years. And he's basically, they're calling him up and say, hey, can you cover this and cover it that way to make, to take away from this? It says a real doctor watches The Social Dilemma. So then it's I don't even know what this is. I haven't watched his reaction, but I almost guarantee he is going to go in and try to debunk it or make it.
I'm not familiar with the real doctor. I say the real people, the fam, need to watch it for themselves and make up their own minds on it. I don't think we need a media man or a medium, like a intermittent person to tell us. I think that once, a person watches it, they can make up their own mind. And I think they will identify with at least one, more, 2, 3, or a whole bunch, of the things they discuss, and that they have that slowly has just kind of very innocently crept into their lives for either their own protection or their own safety or their own conveniences, but they're losing and they're being sold out. When they talk about in that documentary, they're literally speaking about each and every person, man, woman, child, doesn't matter across the board. It is everybody. It is the only thing that has equality to it, and not exactly, what we would consider, oh, that's great. That's equal. We're all equal now. That's not the thing that when people say we're created equal, what we used to mean. Now we're just being used equally.
Well, that completely makes sense. Now, Zara, I can't wait to watch this. In fact, where do we find the actual movie? This is the trailer.
I can't wait for you, and I can't wait for other listeners and viewers to comment on this, because I know this is going to create quite a sensational kind of a conversation, and people are going to realize, and like I say, it's a year and a half old, and it's old new news, and it's something that, okay, it's got 500,000 views, but that's nothing when you look at little TikToks that come out and they've got several million in a day or two. We're not watching the things that are important to us as, future people, future lives, future generations and stuff. Can I mention the other thing that, because I don't want to take up so much time of your program, can I mention the other thing that I just got really, once again, turned on to and so happy, and have been promoting it within my little circle of friends and family?
Yeah, so you gave us the link for the Indian News
Yes.
website.
Yes. Yes, it's the link is and it's WION. And as I was telling Dex, like I have always my entire life I've enjoyed world news. I like to hear every side, every facet of a story, because everyone is an eyewitness, but it's subjective or objective, and you can learn so much from putting all the pieces of the same puzzle together. And so I recently just found this new news station, and oh my goodness, I've learned so much. Like their story, their telling of things that are going on, that if I listen to our news, or if I listen to RT or Al Jazeera or whatever, BBC, I mean, I'm hearing a different side from a very large, important place in the world. Yes, that's it. If you just put it up on there. And it has been an eye-opening experience to me, and it's been extremely consistent and stable, which I appreciate in my time of life right now, and families. And the news that they put out, it just, we don't hear these things. We are not going that deep, or we're so concerned about, one side or the other, or this or that. They're just truly putting forth news. They're not. It's just a different style, a different technique, and I think that people should be aware of it. And like I say, it's their own journey. I'm not the judge or jury. I hope that they, view it with an open mind. And I just heard about it for the first time in just a few weeks, and I've watched it consistently and compared it to the other news I'm watching, and it is amazingly refreshing. And I would like to hear other people's views and opinions on it also in your later shows.
Well, Zara, I did not know about WION, but I've seen other Indian news, and that's actually where I was going for. We go all over the place. We try to get a broad sense of the news, like when the 90 scientists from China all ended up resigning the same day. Our news didn't mention it. Canada barely mentioned it. Australia said a little something about it. But India was the one that said, there's something wrong here. Like they're quitting because they don't want blood on their hands. Nobody else said that except for India. Australia mentioned it, said that it was a little fishy, but India was the one who said, this is really, really strange. Why would 90 out of basically half their scientists quit? So I was quite surprised by that.
Right.
So I have found that India, basically they have journalistic integrity, or somewhat. I don't know yet, though. I haven't seen it, but I would be happy to see that,
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, I think the first day I ever watched it, I was watching China on the borders of India, and them talking about, they're on our borders, and we're putting, our military on the border, and it's going to be a hard winter for them. They're not used to this. And I was like, oh my God, you don't hear this in U.S. news. You don't hear about China on the border of India, and they're, have all these like heavy artillery and thousands of soldiers on their borders. You don't hear that in U.S. news. And that was like one of the first days I'd listened to it. And I was like, oh, I want to listen to this more, because there's more going on than I'm knowing, and not that I can do anything about it, but I really do want to be kind of in the know.
Well, Zara, you're not alone, and there's a lot of people that need to open their eyes to a lot of this as well. Zara, we're out of time, but I appreciate you calling, and I'm glad that we get to share more new stuff out to the Foogle fam, and they heard it from you. I guarantee you that your message is going to ring true with a lot of people. So,
oh, that's wonderful. Thank you, and you have a good evening.
All right. Well, thank you, Zara, and beautiful name and beautiful call. Thank you so much. Have a good night. All right, and then God bless you, Zara. The thing is other some of that stuff should be what people are paying attention to, but there are so many filters over our news. That's the thing. I mean, like, this is the stuff that, in fact, actually, I will say this is the stuff that we have on our website almost every night, and sometimes it will be in the web only, but if you go to our website, a lot of this stuff we grab it from all over the world, because USA is getting worse than China. I hate to say it, but I mean, as far as the news getting filtered out, you have to go to India, you have to go to Australia, you have to go to Europe, and Europe has to go here, Europe has to go to Australia, Europe has to, you're not getting all of it in one place. That's why, if you go to our website, you'll see that we'll take news from, somewhere like Wyon and put it on there, so that way you have it in one place. But yeah, I'm excited to go through this and look through this, because this is cool. I just wonder, what they're kind of like. Remember how BBC used to be? They pretended like they were in the middle. Now they're less pretending, but everything is extremely biased. Fox is extremely right, and CNN and MSNBC and all of them are extremely left, and they're all in their own echo chambers. The echo chambers was created in the last 15 years, really. I mean, I've never seen it this bad. Everybody believes only what they believe, and everybody else, it's like both sides are saying that the other side is completely wrong. I don't think that that's always true. I don't think that the right side is always right and the left side is always right. I think they're both wrong. I think they're both horribly wrong right now. And they just, because you have to be wrong. If you're not seeing the other side of the argument, then you're wrong. You're doing things out of opinion. You're not doing it with fact. So, for second straight month, Americans quit job at record pace. This is getting worse, and it's not because what they're saying. It says Americans quit their jobs at a record pace for the second straight month in September, in many cases for more money elsewhere, as companies bump up pay to fill job openings that are close to an all-time high. The Labor Department said Friday that 4.4 million people quit their jobs in September, or about 3% of the nation's workforce. That's up from 4.3 million in August. And, of course, far above the pre-level of 3.6 million. There were 10.4 million job openings, down from 10.6 million in August, which was revised higher. The figures point to a historic level of turmoil in the job market, as newly empowered workers quit job, often for higher pay or better working conditions. Incomes are rising, Americans are spending more, and the economy is growing. Okay. And the employers have ramped up hiring to keep pace. Rising inflation, however, is offsetting much of the pay gains for workers. Friday's report follows last week's job report, which showed that employers stepped up their hiring in October, adding 531,000 jobs, while the unemployment rate fell to 4.6% from 4.8%. Hiring rebounded as the Delta wave, which had restrained jobs gains in August and September, faded. Really? I just envision a guy named Delta going like this. That was the entire Delta wave. Let me ask you this. I'm going to go over to the chat. Teresa Wrench, thank you. Did you get a better job during this event in the last 2 years? Did you leave your job and leave it for a better job? And I bet you there will be some yeses on that, for as people that have left their job. Did you leave your job and get a better job? Yes or no? It's just a simple yes or no, and no could be that, maybe you're unemployed. Whatever it is, the answer is no if you didn't get a better job due to it. So I want to see in the chat, so then we can see, what, how many people, if any, ended up getting a better job. And I bet you there will be some yeses in there. It will shortly pop up on the screen. No. No, I'm retired. What about Beta, Kappa, Oh, well, we're going to jump straight to Omega, by the way. Straight to Omega. That's what we'll do. No. A lot of no's, by the way. And it says that America is hiring a record number of robots. This is more and more. Look at this. I have not seen. Okay, we saw a couple yes. Hope Still, CR said yes. Yes, I did, James Lieberman. So I would say that's a very small percentage. Yeah, we're going to jump straight to Omega, right? Simply Pony, thank you. Look up Cyrus Parsa, the AI organization. He wrote the book Before the V Hit, real eye-opener. Teresa Wrench, I'd love to check it out. And thank you for your support, Teresa. Nice to see you again tonight. And then Simply Pony. I think you are really one of the... Yeah, I think you've been here for, 3-4 years now? It's nice to have you here. Tassie Devil and Richard Turner, thank you. So a lot of no's. If you saw the chat there, it was almost all no's. I would say probably, I don't know what percentage that was. 2% said yes, I would say. Dex, I don't know if you are on the phones right now, but I did want to ask you about if you could jump in on this one, because we've talked about this a lot, and obviously this is like this. People don't see this as a threat until it takes their job. I really don't think that people understand how bad this is. If you do want to call in, if a robot has taken your job, or if you got a good job or it got replaced by a robot or anything related to this, give us a call at 224-400-MARF. Again, we've got a couple people on there, but we need one more on the back end. Lori I just want to say thank you for your massive contribution. Thank you so much for being a part of this Foogle fam. Thank you as well for going over this week during one of the roughest times, actually, and going to PayPal. Carol W., thanks for all your hard work. Pam B., don't ever not tell us love you guys. Thank you. Don't ever not tell us love you guys. Thank you. I won't. I love you guys. Thank you. Cheryl W., thank you so much for your support. Amanda B., thank you. And then Pam B., don't worry about it. I will make sure to triple it up. And then Jordan B. Bear is up on deck. We'll go into his in a second. Now, Dex, I know that you're going to be popping in here soon.
Yeah, Adam, I'm here.
So, as far as robots, hiring more robots, how are they even... And by the way, the picture on this article actually shows somebody replacing what everybody ends up talking about is a McDonald's worker or somebody who's a fly flipper or a fryer. Somebody who's manning the fryer, manning the flipping the burgers, right? This now can be done by robots.
Yes. So I think the thing that really gets me right now with this is that we've got, and I don't know if you did this article earlier or not, but the amount of people that have left jobs is significantly high, right? The numbers are just through the roof of people leaving jobs, right? But the other thing to think about is the number of companies that have acquired robotics this year is up significantly from last year and the years before. So it's a huge investment in robotics, and which obviously every time robotics comes along, while it may create another job, it usually replaces 2 or 3 or 4 labor jobs, if not more. Right, the whole point is efficiency. So that's a pretty staggering number. The percentage, I can't remember what it is. I want to say 37-ish%. More than what we did last year in this investment, meaning we've invested 37% more in robotics year over year. That's a big jump. That's not like, we did 5% more than we did last year, or we might have did a few percent more, 37% more. And this is going right at the head of people losing or leaving their jobs, right?
So and by the way, this is something you wouldn't realize. The thing is not too many people are going to want to take the McDonald's or the Wendy's jobs unless, right now it's a lot of 17-year-old, 18-year-olds. But as society changes and as kind of our society, rotates around this V, right? They have found that it's even harder to get regular people in. And what the pain that the companies went through this time, and the financial loss that a lot of the smaller companies and a lot of the franchise and chains, I cannot tell you just how many of the restaurants that I saw, they closed hours early. I know that there were multiple 24-hour McDonald's, and we were driving by and they're closed completely. And I'm like, wait a second. Oh, they closed at 5? Why would they close at 5 p.m.? And you see, there's a sign that says that, we have a staff shortage, this, and this. Well, guess what? Now these companies are going to look at machines that can flip fries and replace these workers. They're going to look in investing, instead of investing in a human being to go over to the freezer, grab that bag of fries, pour it in, and do this. They're going to invest in a $200,000 machine that's going to be a massive freezer on top of a fryer, and it's going to drop in the allotted thing. There's going to be a robot that flips that into a thing, and therefore replacing that human being. And then on top of that, the person who actually serves it and takes the money, that's all going away, because now you're going to be taking your card, you're going to be tapping it, you're going to be doing the order on your phone. You walk up to a vestibule and it serves out your food. In both ways, the making of the food is being replaced, and then the taking of the money and the cashiering is being replaced. This is being done everywhere you go. At Walmart's and Costco's and all these big companies, they're replacing the human beings, even the security. That would be something you would think, that has to be a human being, right? Because you got to physically grab them. No, because now they're working on these systems where if somebody's walking out with a full cart of stuff, they already have the facial recognition systems built into Target and Walmart and all these places. They are going to lock you in. You won't be able to leave. And then they have the only thing I don't see being replaced, maybe just a little bit longer, is the police. But then you've got police robots on the way, and other countries are already working on it. So what
we
will
got
human
robot
do?
dogs patrolling streets, right?
That's right. And people don't realize how fast this is going to come. This is going to come where you are going to be held up by a dog with a weapon on its back, and it's going to say freeze or you're dead. And they will work this into laws. They will pass these laws, and it will be a convenience for us. When they start replacing every single damn job with robots, and people will not care if it's not their job. But I guarantee you, no matter what job you're doing, whether it's office work or if it's flipping burgers, there's going to be a robot that will be able to do your position in a short amount of time. So then what do we all do? What use will we have? That's what I'm trying to think about. What use will they have for us? Then you start asking, well, are they just going to kill us off or something? Or, well, we're useless now. No, we're going to be used as a resource somehow. But how would that resource be there? I'm assuming that they might even find something where we would power it, or our carbon dioxide would power something or something. I don't know what our uses are going to be in the future, because if we're not working, what are we doing? Are we dancing like monkeys? Entertainment for other people that don't have a job? I don't understand. Are we all going to be dancing puppets for the elite? Like I'm starting to, because this is not a joke. People think that it'll never be fully replaced. They said a lot of things that would never be replaced 5 years ago are now replaced. That's a machine that flips fries. Talking about there's a machine that flips burgers, and it did better, and it was actually, and you don't have to pay insurance. You don't have to pay L&I claims. Heck, the mechanics that fix these, they're getting replaced. They say, well, I should get into, mechanics and be able to replace or fix these machines that they're buying. Guess what? They're already working on robots to fix robots. So you call a company that is all, they put together robots that fix other robots. That's their factory. And I mean, the only money will be in the big, big, big leagues. I foresee the only job that will be safe for a while is sales and selling these things that replace human beings. And that's a horrible position to put yourself in, where you're selling them something that's going to replace jobs. I I don't know. I say now I wouldn't do it, but if I had to feed my family, I don't know what I would do.
Well, and this is, we're at a stage now where the technological evolution is happening so fast. It's not like, and I'll give this example, the back in the days when lumberjacks didn't have chainsaws, right? And they had to cut forests down with axes. So they had lots of people, swinging axes to chop down trees, right? And then somebody invented the chainsaw, and then when it became, prevalent, then they didn't need as many people just to go knock the trees down. And then, of course, later you get heavy equipment that can come knock the trees down and drag the tree out all at once, right? So these enhancements or efficiencies come in different industries, and those things, came about subtly, not necessarily overnight. And what we're seeing is these what would be efficiencies to some sort of operation, but they're advancing so fast and being brought to the market so quickly that we're going to be displacing people at a much greater rate than we've ever done before.
And it's just all of a sudden it's just gonna catch up with us, and then all of a sudden we'll all be demanding, and we'll all be on the street corners saying, "Hey, we don't want this," but it will be too late. The Recalcitrant, Bear Claws, Dixie Doe, Release the Quack, and thank you for your support. By the way, Idaho M, thank you for staying here tonight. And then Release the Quack, and thank you for gifting out Marfia badges. And then another person who just ended up subscribing monthly, T&2B. Thank you over on D Live, especially the D Love crew. Mrs. Ocean, thank you for following. F Wiper, thank you for wiping. Thank you for following. I'm just going to pause and reflect on my Freudian slip. You think that that there's nothing going on here? Norwegian undersea surveillance network had its cables mysteriously cut. There are jobs being done all over the place, and we're talking about hot jobs, right? The Seafloor Ocean Observatory off the coast of northern Norway can detect the submarine traffic, which could make it a prime target for the Russians. I'm going to repeat that. The Seafloor Ocean Observatory off the coast of northern Norway can detect submarine traffic, which could make it a prime target for the Russians. Okay? And then undersea sensors off the coast of northern Norway that are able to collect data about passing submarines, among other things, have been knocked out. The country's state-operated Institute of Marine Research, or IMR, has revealed the cause of damage is unknown, but the cables linking the sensor nodes to control stations ashore have said to have been cut and then disappeared. This has raised suspicions about deliberate sabotage, possibly carried out by the Russian government, which definitely has the means to do so. If you remember, just a couple years ago, we covered that Russia was practicing with this research vessel that had a very specific thing. Dex, do you remember what that research vessel had? It was a very specific thing it had on board. I don't know if I think you were with me when we were talking about this, and it had a very specific purpose, something that was on board that ship.
Adam, no, I don't remember. I think I remember talking about it, but I'm not sure I remember exactly what device you're talking about.
It has a little pair of snippers.
Yeah, for underwater cable cutting.
We actually, what they were talking about then is that this underwater submersible, it was a smaller sub, had essentially bolt cutters on it, but way bigger. I mean, we're talking about can cut the actual cable that connects the U.S. to Europe. And they were practicing with it, and they were right near it. And they said, "Oh, we're just drilling, we're just practicing." And they're like, "Okay." Well, the ship above ground was the one that carries this very specific thing. And that time they were there, and submarines caught them, and submarines were there, and they were like, "Hey, get away." Now you have a very specific cable cut that monitors what submarine traffic is going around. Now, if you add this, and this isn't even reaching, about a month ago, we had all of these sub hunters all around. We had wartime drills in 18 different time zones. We have been drilling with all of our allies. They have been drilling with all of their allies. Everything is getting ready. By the way, in the next 2 days, I believe that something is going to pop out of South China Sea, or at least some news regarding South China Sea. We'll see how much goes public, right? I highly recommend people pay attention to little stuff like this, because these are very big signs that something is way bigger is going on. It says the IMR, one of the biggest marine research institutes in Europe, described extensive damage to the outer areas of the Lofoten Vesterålen, or LOVE, Ocean Observatory, putting the system offline. LOVE, which was only declared fully operational in August 2020, consists of a network of underwater cables and sensors located in the Norwegian continental shelf, an area of strategic interest for both Norway and Russia. It says Norway's military and the country's national police security service are reportedly investigating what happened to the research surveillance system. LOVE stated purpose is to use its sensors to monitor the effects of change, methane emissions, and fish stocks, providing scientists with a live feed of imagery and sound, as well as other data. Apparently, to spot the big one. Oh yeah, they spotted it all right. And it's in your face. It's right in your face. I digress. Of course, the system also monitors submarine activity in the area, so will immediately be of interest to the Russian Navy. In particular, indeed, data gathered by its sensors is first sent to the Norwegian Defense Research Establishment, also known as Norwegian acronym FFI, before being handed over to the IMR for further study. Lurker One and Bold Troll, you all have dirty minds. It was just a piece of land. Only contains fishing currents and climate information. Yeah, sure. It says we don't care so much about the submarines in the area, located not far from the onshore military installations at Endoya, Evenes, and the other bases in northern Norway, but we know the military is. IMR Director Sissel Rogne told the Norwegian newspaper Dagens Næringsliv. It says you could see what's going on down there regarding all types of U-boats, submarines, and all of the other countries' U-boats. That's why I didn't think that this was just a case for the police, but a case for the police security agency. Something or someone has torn out cables in outlying areas. Geir Pedersen, the Love Project leader, said in a press statement last Friday, reports indicate that more than 2.5 miles of fiber optic and electric cables were severed and then removed. In total, LOVE uses more than 40 miles of cables in the Norwegian Sea. Based on the reports in the Dagens Næringsliv, the LOVE observatory has been affected by interference since at least April, when the connection between the sensor network and the control station at Hovden on the northern island of Langolfa was lost. The cause of the breakdown was subsequently traced by an unmanned submarine to one of the underwater surveillance platforms, or Node 2, which had been dragged away from its normal location, with its connecting cable severed and removed. This sounds exactly what they would do with that very specific tool that they used. They didn't, whatever they had, they must have done it and then moved whatever they wanted to move throughout the water. These are the same guys that threaten us with the 300-foot wave nuke causing tsunami missile and all this other crap. Remember, part of their other thing when they talked about the hypersonics was these new torpedoes that were nuclear torpedoes that could cause 300-foot waves and wipe out the West Coast. and they could turn. You couldn't target them because they could move after the fact they were launched. And then NATO says it remains vigilant over the risk of escalation at the Belarus borders. Freaky stuff. It says NATO said on Friday it is looking out for any escalation in the situation on its members' borders with Belarus after Belarusian and Russian paratroopers staged joint drills near the Polish and Lithuanian borders. It says, quote, "We will remain vigilant against the risk of further escalation and provocation by Belarus at its borders with Poland, Lithuania, and Latvia, and will continue to monitor the implications for the security of the alliance," the North Atlantic Council, representing the alliance's member states, said in the statement. NATO allies call on Belarus to cease these actions, to respect human rights and fundamental freedoms, and to abide by international law. So, obviously,
things are really heating up there in Poland with the border of Belarus, and it's kind of you got the drills, but they also have this border issue, which we have and others have, but they're not taking it lightly. They're saying, hey, you can't do that. That's an act of conflict. So we're going to see what happens and how this plays out. But there's a lot of things going on with Belarus and Poland right now, obviously with Russia backing up Belarus.
And again, they have photos in this new website, the India News, actually shows. There were some pretty shocking photos coming out of it, by the way. While I was on a different screen, it was popping and it actually scrolled through. The images of the troops and the Russian troops that are backing up all these other ones, I mean, we're talking about a WW3 looking scenario. And people are going to be asleep until it happens. Okay, we've got our next caller here lined up. But first, if you do want to prepare for anything and everything, I highly recommend you go over to Essentials of Life. This is a one-stop shop if you are already planning on preparing for anything that might come our way. Obviously, there's a lot of great stuff happening right now. So I don't need to tell you why you may want to do this. I would just, obviously send you to the way of all of the warnings and the heated warnings that we showed you before, and make sure that you know that, water and food are the two essentials of life. So again, you can go over to marfooglenews.com/prep and get some long-term survival food through My Patriot Supply. You can get a discount on 3-month supply right now. It's $100 off, which again, they're not going to be offering kind of any discount. The more that these are in demand, more companies are actually going to be raising prices. So get them now, not later. It's just smart. You don't want to wait until they run out. And by the way, a lot of these companies ran out last year at the beginning. We're just waiting for the next event. If you do have stuff like this, so by the way, even if you have a regular kind of event happen, a power outage for a week, or rolling blackouts, or a winter storm, or an earthquake, or a tornado, doesn't matter what it is, you are better off to have actual supplies than not. And almost anybody has been through a situation where they didn't have the proper supplies. Go to marfooglenews.com/prep. The things that I recommend is definitely to have extra food, but also to have water filtration. That is why they say 190 people will end up going without water, or 130 million. A third of our population would not have food. And then, of course, they say 90% of the U.S. population alone would end up perishing if our lights went out. So that is all due to water. So if you don't have water filtration, head over to marfooglenews.com/prep. Make sure you get yourself an Alexa Pure or something comparable. All right, and then Crop Duster, thank you so much for being here. If the dead could talk, exactly, Cindy. LCJC says, Mary Beth, it's very difficult for them to accept the truth because they are sleeping. And they think I am attacking them. I'm just trying to help them wake up. They want to take out half the pop so that the Polish chef hits they can control, says Michigan Lifestyle. We've got Ken Wilson, The Blink of an Eye, WJS Jen, Pam Beth, Stoplight. Hey, thanks. What's going on, Jeff B? Says 2016 movie cell phone triggers zombie apocalypse. I think you suggested that before. That's a really good movie. Alexa Pures are perfect, says Geneva Cordova. Sally Rizar, Truth Seeker, Cognitable, thank you for being here. Mr. Sean Barry, the government has completed a full investigation of alleged wrongdoing, and it's found it did nothing wrong. We gave ourselves a promotion and taxes will go up. Sean Barry, by the way, that really did happen. I don't know if you noticed that. The 3-letter agency that starts with a W and ends with a ho, they basically did an investigation into themselves and said, we did no wrong. And they said it could continue. Ariel the Wrestling Mermaid, I just wanted to actually stop the show and let you know that I am actually good friends with your boyfriend Mike. And yeah, he says hello. And he's actually here. The one you're looking at is a clone. Mike is actually here in the studio right now. Yes, Mike, hold on. I'm almost done. And then Ariel, the Wrestling Mermaid, says, my boyfriend and I are huge fans. I know. He's right here. You have the clone. I don't. Seth Covington, if kill people, we will need the robots to get a burger. Don't know. Seth Covington, probably. I don't think, I think it's more of, they'll track us into the Matrix pods. And then, Genius by Birth says, what if the chip shortage is really happening because they are filling robots with chips to replace us? I don't know. That's a scary thought. And then Texas Sweet Tea, hit that thumbs up button. Hey, thank you for reminding people. I don't ever, do that stuff, but it does help to remind people. Also, if you can, hit that notification bell. If you do not have it notified, then it won't let you know when we go live. So remember, you have to press all, especially when we talk about these subjects. They'll put us on the bottom of the list unless you press all. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, go over to that little bell, click it, press all on notifications. All right, Dex, let's go over to our next caller. It looks like on deck we have Jordan B. Bear and talking about Elon Musk and Mars migration. Jordan B. Bear from Utah, calling about Elon Musk and Mars migration and a heart surgery plan.
He's live.
Jordan, you're live.
Hello, Adam. Hey, what's up, man? How you doing?
Hey, good. What's going on, Jordan? So what did you want to talk about tonight?
Well, the Mars thing, that was kind of the last thing. First, though, I don't really know how to... I just kind of want your thoughts and maybe other people in the chats that might be kind of going through the same thing or something. So I'm 34 years old, and I had open heart surgery back in 2014. I had to get a heart valve replaced.
Sorry to hear that.
My tricuspid valve, I got a pig valve now. And they said that in 10 years, I'll most likely have to have it replaced again. And that 10 years is coming up in 2 years. And so just something I'm just kind of worried about is just everything, that's been going on. I'm just worried that when the time comes, if I'll actually be able to get, treated.
So,
they say the facilities are,
So basically, if the SHTF situation kind of happens, will there be doctors to even change you out? Nobody even thinks about that. But what if you had a pacemaker, or what if you have something that needs replaced every 10 years, like yourself? By the way, one of my good friends is only 29 and had the same exact thing, and she has a pig valve in her chest. They had to open up her entire chest and do the same thing. And she's extremely afraid because now she's got other issues that correlate with it, and she has to get hers replaced early. And she's worried that, she already went through this not too long ago, and now she has to go through that whole recovery process, which I'm sure you remember was pretty bad, right?
Yeah, it was terrifying. I'm still scared of doctors just because of that whole experience.
I bet. And by the way, you have the whole Foogle fam, you have the whole Mafia praying for you and sending positive vibes, because that is really scary. Anything chest related and going in there, even if they go without cracking you open, that's scarier too. That they have different things that they've been doing with all sorts of chest related surgeries.
Yeah, that's what they were saying when I first had the surgery in 2014. They're like, yeah, in 10 years from now, when you need it replaced again, by then technology will be so advanced that we can just go in through your arm and won't even have to crack it open.
They actually might might be able to do that, but there's a set of risks that go along with that as well. But you'll have to talk about that. But back to what you're saying though, that's a really freaky thought. Say if you had something like what you have a condition. What would the world be like if we're really looking at a possible dystopian future or something out of a zombie movie where there's nothing open, there's no real hospitals. It's if you know a doctor or a friend, would they even be able to do it?
Exactly.
That's a freaky thought. Are you?
So I'm just hoping and praying that it'll all go well when the time comes.
Well, I would, but to be honest, I would line yourself up and I would actually, that there's forums online and there's forums that you can meet people. I would say make some friends with some of the doctors and some of the forums that kind of agree with how you think and see if you can meet some of those people and see if you can find somebody local that would be that kind of doctor. And it's a super far off thing. Right? And you don't know, it's a 1% chance or however many percent chance that it actually might happen. But if you are concerned about it, I would say try to find somebody local that thinks a lot like yourself and get to know them and say, hey, if this does happen, let me trade you this for that or something.
Yeah, or I mean, like if I had it, instead of getting the surgery in 2014, say I had it in 2012 and right now was my 10-year mark and I needed it replaced, right now, like would the I don't know if I can say the facility, would they be able to let me in and treat me, or because are they too full with sick people?
Well,
allegedly.
Did they give you any option where it could last longer than 10 years, or it was guaranteed like 10 years is too much?
Yeah, they did. It was just kind of like about 10 years ish, and that was kind of all they did was they did the surgery, and then right after I had severe organ failure, liver failure, and kidney failure, like from the antibiotics and all the recovery drugs they were giving me. That was a whole scary thing. But then after it was all said and done, they kind of just turned me loose, and I haven't had to check up or anything. All I have in the back of my head is 10 years from now, I might need to get this thing replaced again.
That's actually terrifying. And the fact that, they kind of just set you off and no checkups and you've got a pig valve and you almost died at that point. Well, so either way, I hope somebody, and you're in Utah, right? Is that where you said you're from?
Yeah, Utah.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're not it's not like you are in a state full of big cities and tons of different things. Well, Jordan, I don't know. And then as far as the second thing goes, Elon Musk and Mars, are you hoping you'll be on there?
This is just another thing I was just kind of thinking of. Instead of, like, I wonder if, I'm sure they've thought of this, but instead of migrating millions or a whole planet to another planet like Mars with no atmosphere and trying to build an atmosphere and make it a habitable planet, why don't we just make cities at the ocean floor where we know there's life and there's all that kind of stuff? I think we could move a lot more people down to the ocean floor than we could sending them off to another planet.
Well, that's
just something I was thinking of.
Well, that's another question, though. Will there be? Well, I guess that would be logistics of. You're talking about making like an Atlantis under domes, or like the Abyss, like the movie The Abyss, where they're in these domes of something underneath. But one question is, will we have water on the planet? Some are saying that it might turn into a Mars. Like this planet is going to be a barren desert planet. But I don't know. I mean, that wouldn't be for thousands of years, right? Or could that happen overnight?
Yeah.
Or
who knows?
could Planet X come by and pull all the water off of the planet? You know, do they know something we don't? Do they know that a huge planet's going to hit, and it doesn't matter if you're at the bottom of the ocean or at the tallest mountain, you're going to be gone if you're not on a different planet.
Yeah.
Elon Musk says he's doing it because he wants humanity to survive. I mean, you got to really look at why he's said publicly. He said humanity's best chance is to go on to more than one planet. He's putting all of his own money into this. He was in the beginning. He literally almost failed. There's a lot of weird stuff around this, and it's like all of the billionaires are putting all their money into space. Why?
Yeah, it's weirred.
It's super weird. Why wouldn't
That's why
they?
I was just thinking. I think it would just be easier to just make some cities under the sea instead of, because who knows what's on Mars.
Well, why?
It seems like it's just an empty desert to me that we're going to try and pump some oxygen in or drill it out or whatever they're doing.
Like the story that we're talking about now, like what are they going to grab a bunch of oxygen from the moon and then put it onto Mars? They're talking about taking the moon and that being a launch point to go to Mars. But either way, it's like, you know, what I guess what is going to happen that they think, why aren't they buying cities? Like if you were the richest man in the world or in that top 5, which mind you, one of the top 5 billionaires of the world is making bunkers through Atlas Survival. So one of the top 5 is making bunkers. All of the rest, there's 3 of the 5 or 3 of the 6 that are trying to make their own space company and go to space. And that's just freaky. Why would you not use those billions of dollars that they're pulling out of their own pocket? Both Bezos and Elon are both pulling money out of their own pocket, $1 billion out of their pocket.
Yeah.
Why aren't they buying whole cities? Like if you were rich, you would think, oh, I'll just buy all of New York and I'll walk around it like I'm king. That's not what that's not what they're doing. That's what Trump did.
I don't know, man. It's a crazy world.
I don't know. Well, hey,
who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? What's going on?
Well, Jordan, I just want to say I'm praying for you, and regardless of if people pray or they send positive vibes, I just want you to know that I am praying for you, and that I'm asking for you to heal and to have that valve last as long as it can, and hopefully you can get that fixed before anything bad happens, and hopefully no bad happens. But I mean, my personal opinion.
And I feel fine now too. That's just always been in the back of my head since they turned me loose. Is in 10 years, and now it's getting closer and closer. And as it's gotten closer, the world's gotten crazier and crazier, and you know what I mean.
Well, it's something that none of us would think about in a normal life, but you do, and that's pretty fascinating. I mean, we don't have to think about if there's no doctors with surgery, I won't be able to survive, kind of thing. Whereas if there's doctors and the planet's going as normal, it's not really that big of a deal. The technology's advanced to where somebody like you with that condition can live for the rest of their life to 100. Who knows, even longer, depending on the next 20 years of technology. So, well, Jordan, I hope you well. I hope it all goes well, and thank you for calling in. I appreciate you.
All right, Adam. Well, thanks, man. Dex, thanks too for letting me in and getting me going. And all the Foogle fam, you guys are awesome.
Well, a lot of people are going to be sending their positive wishes too. That was Jordan B. From Utah. If you are a heart surgeon in Utah, you know what to do. Being serious though, I wish we had somebody who imagine that if somebody did volunteer, they're a heart surgeon and they said, hey, if everything goes down, I'll do that. Could you imagine that? That might sound crazy, but think about that. For somebody like him, that's an actual prep. Dex, did you think? Can you think about that? Realize that for him, that's an actual part of his prepping. He has to think about that kind of stuff, whereas a normal person wouldn't have to think about that.
Yeah, and I think he's got two different things to think about. One was the SHTF scenario, but the other is just the scenario we have today. Like what's it like going and getting surgery in today's times with everything going on. He also brought up another really interesting point about underwater cities, and they've always been folklore or they're remnants of cities that were once flooded or whatnot. But there's actually I was just looking this up. There's actually people that are building. There's a $26 billion plan. I think it's probably out of China to build an underwater city by 2030. So, and if you think about submarines, they create their own air from the water. They create their own drinkable water from the water by desalinating it. I mean, you're only limited by food, and obviously you can't really grow food on a submarine, so you pack it with you. But if you were building a large structure like an underwater city, you could actually start growing food and growing things and building small nuclear power plants under there that could, power things just like they power submarines, right?
Well, and you could grow food on a submarine if you had the proper lighting. I mean, you could grow vegetables and things like that with hydroponics. I mean, couldn't you? I would.
Oh,
assume.
yeah, you could. I think that they just don't prioritize growing food versus packing nukes on there. Probably more important.
Yeah, probably. And who knows? Maybe at some point they'll be selling them. We'll get some at clearance, and we could actually use those nuke tubes to grow our food in. Dex, do you want to go up? Go up on one with me? They're only $2 billion.
Exactly. But no, but in theory, like imagine, taking just like they build space stations and building underwater stations that are interconnected tubes of buildings with, one building being a greenhouse and another building, being a power substation and other things like that, right? Exactly. It could be done. It's quite interesting that we're spending all of our time getting above and not thinking about all the space below.
Well, maybe that was what Prince William was talking about. And then we have 10 British troops deployed to support Poland and border. It says Britain is joining forces with Poland by sending 10 UK troops to fortify. And I always thought it was Belarus. You said Belarus.
Belarus
right?
Is how I've always heard it.
Belarus. So Belarus, press number 1 in the chat. Belarus, press number 2. Wait, did I just do the same thing? Okay, if you pronounce it Belarus, press number 1. If you pronounce it Belarus, press number 2. And 1 is always a better number for everything. Just the cool people. Wait
a minute. We got all those early ones are from when you had it backwards. Now they're all going to 2.
No. Get out of here.
Yeah, they all flipped to 2. I can see it.
No. Belarus or Belarus. If you read it how it's spelled.
You can ask Google. I'll tell you.
I don't want to, because I'm right. I'll copy and I'll ask Google. Well, I got to fix it, because if I'm wrong, I have to correct myself. How do you say... Okay. All right. Belarus. Okay. Are we gonna wait a second.
Belarus.
Wait, is that how I said it?
No, that's how I said
Belarus.
Nice try.
No, I said Belarus. I said that.
Belarus.
Belarus. Like a kangaroo. Roos.
Okay. I said, okay. Back to Belarus. Belarus. Okay. Britain is joining forces with Poland by sending 10 UK troops, 10, really just 10 guys, UK troops to fortify the Belarus border as thousands of migrants attempt to cross the frontier into the EU. The UK Ministry of Defense said the mission, which agreed that the Polish government is meant to provide engineer support rather than police the border. It says the forces, which have been on the ground since Thursday, are expected to repair or fortify fencing. Poland has already sent thousands of soldiers, military equipment, and riot police to reinforce the border with razor wire. EU leaders have dubbed Belarusian leader Alexander Lukashenko's pushing of thousands of migrants to the country's border with Poland a hybrid war. What do you think, Dex, as far as the troops that are on the border of Poland?
Well, I don't know enough about the politics between the two countries, but I know that when they start to threaten cutting off gas supplies, when they start moving troops in, when they're putting up razor wire, and when you go back and you just look at the history, I mean, rewind to the end of the Great Second Conflict, and you look at how, the Soviets sort of just went in and picked everybody up in there and sort of, took over, right? There's history there. There's lots of history there that may or may not be welcomed. And, being conquered once or twice, once bitten, twice shy, you don't want to do it a third time. So I think, Poland is probably saying, BTF, right? Like, get off our border. We don't need anybody here, right? Like, we don't want you. We don't want this. It's like an invasion to them. So, I think the one thing we have to pay attention to is it seems like the escalations are getting there because they're really starting to talk with, fighting words, right? And it's starting to amp up quite a bit. And this is the other side where obviously Russia's involved, but it's the other side of the northern part of the Ukraine, this is not a Ukraine issue. This is a Poland-Belarus issue, but it's still in that same general area. And we've seen all of the work with NATO and amping up our, putting in our new, or not new, but reactivating old, plans that we had and old systems and artillery systems we had in there that included nukes in that area because of all of these things that are happening, whether it's the Ukraine or in this case, Belarus and Poland.
Poland. But yeah, no, I totally agree with you. As far as the 5 different places that are kind of the hot points, they're actually watching it hotter. It's getting hotter and hotter by the day. As far as Russia's side, we're going to see a ton of news as far as in the next week on this. So I guess we're going to be watching this as close as we can. The thing is this can affect the entire world, and people are not too keen to learn about a lot of the stuff that's going on outside of their origin country. But something bigger is happening here, so we need to pay attention. And by the way, yes, as somebody says, a good man admits when he's wrong. I was totally wrong. It's not Belarus. But I will say, it does look like that when you read it. If it was English, Belarus. But then when you say it like that too, Belarus. Both ways. And then, what was it? Somebody said, now we're going to have to teach him how to say Charlebrew or whatever. I used to say nuclear. And then enough people complained that I learned how to say it. It's nuclear. So I'm always trying to improve. I am always making mistakes. As far as NATO goes, I always look at them and go, okay, what is really going on? NATO and the UN both have the same goals overall. Opposite kind of ways. One says that they will, wage a war to protect peace, and one says they avoid war at all costs to wait to get peace. So we'll see what NATO ends up doing. And then Belarus theaters to choke off EU gas supply over the border dispute. It says that Belarus has threatened to cut off its transit of gas supply to Europe if the EU imposes sanctions over a migrant crisis at its western border. The bloc has accused Russian-backed President Alexander Lukashenko of weaponizing the thousands of people currently gathered in freezing camps at the border with Poland to undermine the EU security and distract from the domestic political pressures an allegation Belarus denies. With the EU reportedly preparing a fresh round of sanctions, Lukashenko said in an emergency cabinet meeting on Thursday that the country could cut off deliveries along the Yamal Europe pipeline from Russia, mounting further pressure on European leaders as the continent remains afflicted by the international energy crisis. It says, we heat Europe and they are still threatening us that they'll shut the borders. The strongman leader, who has been in power since 1994, reportedly told cabinet ministers. And it says, and what if we cut off the transit of natural gas to them? So I would recommend that the leadership of Poland, Lithuanian, and other brainless people to think before they speak. So remember too, so wait, Dex, do you know which direction? Because Europe already has a huge problem because their underwater line was cut or something happened to it. Not speaking of the underline, the Norwegian underwater cable being cut. We also had just a month ago.
Yeah, that was the France-English power line.
Yeah, France, the underwater line between France and the UK somehow got damaged or got damaged, and that's 40% of their energy. 40% of is it their electricity, or was it a pipeline, or I think it was their.
I think it was it was a line that connected a couple of power plants from each side through the English Channel, and that got damaged at one end. I think it's been repaired, but it got damaged at one end. It was an issue for electrical power, but a lot of this natural gas.
This is gas, but this is also energy, right? So would this affect any of the same? Would these overlap at all?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's going to overlap when it comes to, just general energy usage, whether you're using electric or gas, or using gas to create electric, right? That happens in some of these plants. They'll burn natural gas and run a generator off of that and create electricity and pump it into the system. But nonetheless, a lot of this natural gas is coming through Russia. Like we've talked about the Nord Stream 2, which got approved by our administration while our administration shut down other pipelines. But that one was approved for Russia to supply natural gas into Europe. And that's very similar to these other pipelines that already exist, like the one that Belarus is saying, hey, we'll just turn the pipeline off that's running to you. We'll starve you out. It's, cold winter's coming. And guess what? You're not going to have any natural gas to heat your homes or to generate electricity, if your homes are generated with electric heat, right? So it's a pretty big threat. And that's what I was saying. Like this is not just minor skirmish that we hear, that maybe made it into the news. This is kind of amping up to be a little bit bigger than most people thought. And a lot of people don't even know, like, where is Belarus and where does it meet Poland, and how does it, have an impact on Europe? And really much more important is, what role does somebody like Russia play in this, which is a pretty significant role. And what role does NATO, or really the US, would play in this from protecting, say, Poland and other countries that are on the NATO side of the house.
Well, it's obviously going to play out as it is. I mean, I've never been to Europe, so a lot of these things that are going on over there, I look at things just like you guys do. So as far as the audience goes, I guess I and Dex and I know a lot of stuff that's going on. And even in real life, if we're talking to somebody just in general and they don't know what we do, it's kind of strange because I absorb almost all of this stuff that we cover every single day. You may watch, and I bet you guys are a lot the same because you're following along with us, and a lot of the people that are here every night, I bet you when you talk to somebody, you're just like this huge thing of knowledge because you have 30 news articles in your mind every single day. I do, at least, and I remember all these old ones. And I don't have a perfect memory, but we remember these things. And you start making connections of all the little things that were and now are coming true. They talked about Belarus. In my brain, I remembered, is that right? I remembered just about 6 months ago talking about how this would happen, and now it is happening. This exact scenario almost. And I just remembered that. So the one thing is, like, when you've absorbed all this much, it's really freaky to see the things that your brain was already thinking beforehand, and it's all coming true. Do you guys ever feel like that? Like, it's just strange following this all so closely. We're definitely ahead. Anybody who watches the show, and I'm not saying this because we're the best show on earth, is because of how much we cover. And if you actually do watch every single show, there's no way you could not be absorbing all of this stuff that's happening every single day. It just gets stuck with you. When you talk, but I guess my main point is most people are not following this at all. None of it. So when things happen, here's where this really matters, is when SHTF happens, you are going to know why, or you're probably going to know why, or you're going to have a guess why. Most people, if something popped off in Belarus and Poland and Russia and it started WW3, most people would not know why the hell anything was going on. They would have no idea why. You might. But in general, world issues that could pop into the next WW3, we're going to be following this, and other people aren't. So when this happens, you're going to have a ton of people that are completely unprepared, and they're going to be looking at you and asking you what to do. Just remember,
Adam, we need to send folks to the other channel, because otherwise the rest of the Foogle fam that watches the replay is going to miss out. We're hitting the 2-hour mark.
Okay, let's get, by the way, before we've
already
switch over.
We're hitting it right now.
Okay, let's get on Nile. Make sure to go over to Marfoogle Jams if you want to join the rest of the channel. All right, let's get Nile on. And if it's already switched over, make sure to go over to marfooglenews.com for the rest of the stories. Blinken says U.S. is concerned Russia may be attempting to rehash